Howdy folks, Joe DeSanto, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me. Okay, in this video I'm going to be talking about home equity, what it is, how you can take advantage of it, and more particularly for retirees or people getting closer to retirement, how you can think about your home equity. But before then, if you like my content, I'd really appreciate it if you could do a like and or subscribe. It really helps me out. I also want to point out or let you know that I recently updated yet again my main course. It used to be called the Financial Independence Roadmap. Changed the name to Personal Finance Mastery. And really what that entails and what the course covers is how to most effectively run the business of you. That's what I like to essentially call personal finance in general. And it's not just about budgeting or saving and that sort of stuff. Of course, those are all part of it, but it's really bigger than that. It's budgeting, saving, it's being optimal, it's investing, it's tax planning, it's being entrepreneurial, and all of those things working together for you to effectively and most optimally run the business of you and get ahead. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're looking to get your quote-unquote financial act together, I think this course will be of great help to you. I tried to make it as easy as possible to follow and to get you set up to move forward, making good decisions and be prepared for what's to come. Okay, thanks so much for listening to that and talking about home equity here. So in general, home equity is the value of your home less what you owe on it. Right, so if your home's worth $1 million and you owe $500,000, you have about $500,000 of equity. Now, I should say the caveat to that is if your house is worth $1 million and you go to sell it, you're probably going to lose about 7% of that sale price due to commissions and taxes and fees and closing costs and so on. So, but just to use round numbers, house is worth $1 million, you owe $500,000, your equity is $500,000. Now, if you're nearing retirement and you've owned your house for a long time, which is the case for many people, your house might be worth $1 million and you owe nothing. You paid it off. Probably if you bought the house 20 or 30 years earlier, you might have only paid $200,000 or $300,000 for it. You paid the mortgage off and now you're sitting on $1 million of equity. You know, sometimes that's the case. You might, if you know about home equity, you might have taken out a home equity loan in the interim, but let's say you hadn't. So those are two examples of what your equity is. I would say that for many people, it is the buying of the house and the increase of the value of the house and the growth of that home equity that ends up being the significant part of their retirement nest egg. The house saves so many people. That's why I'm such a proponent of people owning their residence and not renting. You know, ultimately becomes for a savings account, but you have great value growth. You know, historically houses have performed. You get tons of great tax benefits. I think it's a home run. Plus you get a lot of intangibles like home security. You can't be kicked out of your house, whereas you could be kicked out of your rental, unfortunately. So anyway, we won't go down that road. Now, how can you tap your home equity? The problem with home equity is if you're living in your house and you retire and you stay in your house, your money is trapped in the house and you can't really spend it. So a lot of people do sell their house in an expensive area of the country, move to a cheaper area, they buy a new house outright, and then they have that cash left over. So let's say you sell your house for $1 million. You know, you walk away with $950 or $940. You go buy a house in a cheaper area for $300 or $400 cash, so you don't have this overall expense. And then you have a bunch of cash now to live. So that is a way to tap your home equity. But if you don't want to move, what are some of the other ways? Well, you can, of course, get a home equity loan or home equity line of credit. Those two types of loans use the equity in your home as collateral and allow you to borrow that money out, and now, of course, you have it to spend. The home equity line of credit is a revolving debt facility, much like a credit card, but because it's using your home as collateral, it usually has a lower interest rate, And also, to use it doesn't affect your credit score as greatly as if you went and used $100,000 on your credit cards. Now, a home equity loan is when you use the equity as collateral, but it's not a revolving line of credit, meaning you can use it and pay it off, use it and pay it off, use it and pay it off. You borrow out a lump sum at once, much just like a mortgage. You have a fixed payment, a fixed interest rate, and you make, consistent monthly payments for 20 or 30 years or whatever the length of the loan is. Oftentimes that is referred to as a second mortgage if you already have a first mortgage. But if you don't have a mortgage, you don't know anything in your house, that would just really be like, doing a refi, cash out refi. Now, the problem with these things is, you can imagine, if you're retired and you're on lower income or fixed income, you now have a giant monthly payment to make. That is the rub of borrowing the money out of your house to use the equity versus selling your house and moving to a smaller house or less expensive house, buying that and having that net cash to spend. So if that's going to be a problem if you're not working, and you'll also struggle potentially to qualify for a mortgage like that if you're not working. Now, if you have enough money, like in terms of cash and retirement savings and that sort of stuff, where you're actually generating some monthly income out of your retirement accounts and you have a fair amount of assets, that will make getting approved for a HELOC or a HE loan easier. But if you have all that money in assets, you may not need the money, right? So now the last option, I don't know if it's the last, but the one that, most common one that I'm aware of is a reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage tends to have, a mix in terms of its reputation. I'll be honest, I don't know all the details of it. I'm sure the benefits of it come with some, caveats, and that's where the reputation factor comes in. But ultimately, a reverse mortgage is also a loan utilizing your home equity. The difference is you don't have to make monthly payments along the way. Ultimately, the lender says, hey, we will give you your home equity in form of a loan. We won't require monthly payments along the way, but we will settle up the debt when you die, and we'll sell your house in order to settle up the debt. However, I have read that you can exit a home mortgage early by just electing to sell your house before you die, if you want, and pay off the reverse mortgage. Now, this has obvious benefits, and I love the idea of this product because you don't have that monthly payment. You get to stay in your house, you get the money from the equity, and you don't have the monthly payment. This product is only available to people, I think, 55 plus, so it's specifically designed for, people in their later years. My guess is, and now I haven't validated this, while you're not making payments, there is an interest accumulation, and you're going to have to settle up not only the principal amount, but also the interest that has accumulated along the way. So I think, the lender is taking some risk on there because maybe they won't be able to sell the house for the money they gave you plus all the interest. But my guess is they give you only a certain amount of money, enough such that they feel comfortable that statistically it's going to work out in their favor. But that probably means that the deal to you may not seem so favorable on paper, but you got to weigh the balance. You have to weigh the benefits of getting access to your equity with no monthly payment as the other alternatives. Now, again, I want to admit that I am not super well versed in reverse mortgages. I haven't talked to anyone regarding them or done any research because it's not where I'm at in my particular point of life. But that is my basic understanding, and I love the concept of the product, and I think it really, fills the void or fills the gap of what a retiree's need is, especially if they don't want to move or can't move or whatever it is. So there you go. I hope that's helpful. I will see you in the next one.